The final item of business today is members' business debate on motion 19268 in the name of Tom Arthur on celebrating the work of the Levern Valley Defibrillator Community Partnership. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put, and I would ask those who wish to speak in the debate to press the request to speak button. I call on Tom Arthur to open the debate for around 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm very grateful that time has been made available to recognise and celebrate the work of the Levern Valley Defibrillator Community Partnership. And I'd like to thank those members from across the Chamber who supported my motion for today's debate. The area known as the Levern Valley is located in the western part of East Renfrewshire, taking in the communities of Uplandmoor, Neilston and Barrhead, the largest town in my Renfrewshire South constituency. The aim of the partnership is to bring together groups and organisations from across the community to install public access defibrillators, PADs, across the area. A defibrillator, to give the British Heart Foundation's definition, is a device that gives a high-energy electric shock to the heart of someone who is in cardiac arrest. The high-energy shock is called defibrillation, and it's an essential part in trying to save the life of someone who's in cardiac arrest. Presiding Officer, cardiac arrest is a medical emergency where there is a sudden loss of blood flow due to the heart failing to pump effectively. It is not normally preceded by symptoms, however, without immediate treatment will be fatal. Presiding Officer, the Levern Valley Defibrillator Community Partnership was established by Barrhead community stalwart Douglas Yates in 2018, receiving registered charity status in October of that year. Key partners to date include East Renfrewshire Council, Barrhead Housing Association, Auchenback Active, Barrhead Rotary and Field Electrics from Neilston, who have generously installed the pads. So far, a total of 18 pads have been installed in Barrhead, with the most recent being unveiled at the Fernies Golf Club, Shanks Bowling Club and at St John's Church last month. These latest installations expand the geographic spread of the pads, following on from devices installed last year in a number of locations, including Barrhead Community Museum, Tesco Barrhead and Glen Halls in Neilston. Financial support for the partnership has come via a number of sources, including from East Renfrewshire Council as part of a wider £25,000 investment to install 23 pads across the wider local authority area. Funds have also been received from the Scottish Government via the Community Choices Fund, with £4,000 being allocated following support from Barrhead residents in March last year. Further fundraising has been ongoing, including community concerts and tabletop sales. Opportunities are also available for organisations to adopt a pad by paying £200 annually for maintenance costs. Presiding Officer, the work of the partnership has demonstrated the vibrancy of community spirit in the area, and it is work that will save lives. Out-of-hospital cardiac arrests are and remain a killer. Each year in Scotland, roughly 3,000 people will have out-of-hospital cardiac arrest where resuscitation is attempted. Sadly, only 6% will survive to hospital discharge. What we do know, however, is that in the case of cardiac arrest, where a shockable rhythm is present, an automated external defibrillator of the kind being installed across the Levern Valley can have a positive impact on chances of survival. The devices are straightforward to use, require no previous training and can only deliver a shock to an individual experiencing cardiac arrest, removing the possibility of accidental harm. Key to the success of the devices is their rapid use following onset of cardiac arrest. For every passing minute without medical intervention, the chances of survival decrease, with minimal likelihood of recovery after 10 minutes. This is why the work of the Levern Valley Defibrillator Partnership to increase access and availability of pads is so important. To maximise their benefit, it is also vital that the location of pads is clearly signposted, and to this end I welcome the work of the partnership to publicise the location of the devices. Further, I welcome the launch of the consultation on the mandatory registration of pads by Anis Sarwar. I look forward to studying the consultation results and any proposals brought forward. I'd also be keen to hear views on how the installation of pads could be encouraged, potentially through such avenues as procurement and planning. It is also worth noting that the work of the partnership demonstrates the positive results that can be achieved with effective collaboration between community organisations, local authorities and national government. Through their effective engagements with key community stakeholders, the partnership has been able to deliver pads in a way that is both cost-effective and empowers the local community. Beyond the Levern Valley, I'd also like to recognise the work of others in Renfrewshire South in securing the installation of pads, including the Neilson and Uplandmere First Responders, Howwood Community Council, Renfrewshire Council, and of course the Scottish Ambulance Service. Presiding Officer, before concluding, I'd like to say a few words about Douglas Yates. I've known Douglas for over a decade. I doubt there are many people in Barrhead who haven't worked with him at some point. Douglas has been involved in community activism in Barrhead for over 45 years. He has served as the chair of Barrhead Community Council, helped establish and chaired what was then Barrhead and District Victim Support, founded East Renfrewshire University of the Third Age, served as a Vice Chair of Voluntary Action East Renfrewshire, chaired the Barrhead Gala Committee, was a local councillor and Deputy Leader of East Renfrewshire Council. And after a lifetime of service to Barrhead and the wider community, now in his 70s, he has been instrumental in setting up the Levern Valley Defibrillator Community Partnership. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, I would like to thank Douglas Yates and all who have supported the partnership over the past 2 years. They represent the best of Barrhead and their work will save lives. I look forward to the contributions from other members and the Minister, and I ask that you all join me in celebrating the outstanding work of the partnership. Thank you.
We now move to the open debate. Speeches of 4 minutes, please. Anna Sarwar, followed by Stuart McMillan.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I start by thanking and congratulating Tom Arthur for both this motion and also bringing forward this important debate. And like him, join him in celebrating and congratulating Levern Valley Defibrillator Community Partnership. All the partners involved, including the Rotary Club, including all the businesses, including the local authority, for the fantastic achievement of raising £25,000 and installing 23 devices, which will literally save lives for local people. And I congratulate Douglas Yates, who Tom Arthur mentioned, and indeed all those involved in that fantastic project. It follows on from the very successful British Heart Foundation campaign to build a nation of lifesavers through their campaign to have CPR taught in schools across the country. And I'm pleased to be working with the British Heart Foundation in their next big national campaign, which is to have the mandatory registration of defibrillators across the country so that we can save lives here and be an example to other parts of the UK and indeed to the rest of the world. And the reason why this is such an important issue is every year in Scotland there are approximately 9,000 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests. And of those, approximately 3,500 cases are where resuscitation is attempted. But sadly, in only 1 in 12 of those cases will the person actually survive. And a big part in improving those numbers is the use of AEDs. And Tom Arthur rightly mentioned the intention to bring forward a members' bill on the mandatory registration of AEDs, and hopefully to launch a public consultation in due course. That is a bill that I hope will receive support from members right across this chamber, as indeed from communities across the chamber. And I hope to work alongside the Scottish Ambulance Service, the British Heart Foundation, members in this chamber and community groups across the country so that we can have a mandatory registration of defibrillators across the country and we can have direct bystander support to help save lives across Scotland. Because the failure to register can have devastating consequences. Quite often we have community groups who do the hard work, who raise the money. Quite often we have businesses who make the commitment and do install the AED, but then fail to register that AED with the Scottish Ambulance Service, meaning that when an incident does occur, quite often there's a failure for the ambulance service to recognise there's a device nearby, to direct someone to that device for the AED to be used in that meantime before the ambulance itself presents, meaning that we might lose a life in the process. And the reason why every second and every minute is so crucial is that each minute of delay is found to reduce the probability of survival by 10%. Each minute that is lost. And therefore we know if we use defibrillators, we could increase the survival rate by as much as 70%. And that is why registration is so important. And looking at international evidence, it is clear that if you use an AED, you're 15 times more likely to use that AED if it's registered than if it's unregistered, and then you're also more likely, 70% more likely, to survive if you use an early defibrillation than if you don't use defibrillation at all. And that's why it's important that we do collect the data, that we do monitor the use of those AEDs and that we do share that information with the ambulance service as well. So at that point I would turn to the Minister to ask what further steps the government is taking to ensure that we do have that mandatory registration of AEDs, that we do encourage more people to register the AEDs with the ambulance service so we can have that national database, so we can use that fantastic dedication of community organisations, of local businesses, and help that to save lives across our country. And what resources, if any, the government is willing to put behind that to make sure we have not just a public interest campaign to try and get more people who already have those AEDs out there to register, but we identify where the gaps are and encourage people where those gaps are to install those AEDs and make them available for public use. I think if we do have that campaign, if we can have the mandatory registration of AEDs, we can literally save hundreds of lives every year, and over the course of a number of years, save thousands of lives and be an example, as I say, right here in Scotland, for the rest of the UK and indeed to the rest of the world. And again, I'd like to thank Tom Arthur for bringing forward this very important debate.
Stuart McMillan, followed by Willie Coffey.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I too echo the comments of colleagues regarding Tom Arthur for securing this important members' debate and also for the work of the Levern Valley Defibrillator Community Partnership. I also want to put on record my congratulations and thanks to Douglas Yates, someone who I've known for some years, not as much as Tom Arthur, but certainly someone who I've had some dealings with in the past. And I think the work that Douglas Yates has undertaken in this regard has been quite remarkable, and congratulations to him. I think the achievement of the partnership in raising finance and also the awareness as well as the purchasing of the 23 devices in such a short space of time is an incredible achievement. Furthermore, the Heart Start training and also the support of the British Heart Foundation and their Nation of Lifesavers campaign are pivotal to making society feel safer in using a defibrillator. Presiding Officer, one of the challenges many people in society feel is the fear of using a defib in case it causes harm to a person. Now, breaking down that fear will actually help save lives, and any training that can happen is crucial in making communities not only feel safer, but actually make them safer. Presiding Officer, the Chamber will recall a members' debate I held on the 24th of April 2018 entitled Show Some Heart, the Jayden Orr campaign. I highlighted how the tragic passing of 10-year-old Jayden Orr was the catalyst for this campaign. The Orr family have shown a strength and determination that will not exist in many people, and the respect and support that they have been shown from the Inverclay community has just been incredible. The campaign has been fully supported at the outset by the local newspaper, the Communit Telegraph, and also myself. It has had a few twists and turns along the way, as every campaign does. However, the results of the campaign have been hugely positive. Firstly, public awareness of the importance of defibs has increased hugely, and more people are aware of the machines and how they can help. Secondly, the Heart Start training and the BHF training sessions locally have seen an increase in uptake. I obtained my Heart Start certificate in September 2018, and I would encourage members across the Chamber to sign up to training in their own areas. Thirdly, Kathleen Orr and her family have raised thousands of pounds and have purchased defibs, with the money placing many in local schools and also other locations. Thus far, the number of defibs registered in Inverclyde has increased from a single figure of 3 to 52 as of December. This huge increase is primarily as a result of the fundraising to purchase more defibs, as well as the campaigning raising awareness to get defibs registered. Now, furthermore, as part of the partnership approach undertaken, the St Andrews First Aid were so moved by the Orr family and their actions after the passing of Jayden that they became an integral partner to ensure that Inverclyde will be the best covered area in Scotland and probably the UK for defibs, as they are donating 30 to my community. Stuart Callison and the team at St Andrews First Aid deserve a huge amount of credit for their support, and I would like to put in the public record today my sincere thanks and that of everyone associated with the Jayden Orr campaign for their generous donation. The rollout of these defibs in my community has already started, with the first one being installed in Larkfield and Greenock in November. And Debbie Scobie was so moved by the campaign that she wanted to help and offered her house as a location for the first of these 30. Yesterday, the Communit Telegraph reported that Pat Dunn an employee of the local shipyard, Ferguson Marine Port Glasgow Limited, offered to have a defib placed outside of his house. That was actually showing the shipyard and the workforce at the yard actually showing support for the community when the community was showing so much support for the yard. His work colleagues helped fundraise for the exterior box for the house. Saying also there's more that I could say, but I am immensely proud of my community and how it has and continues to rally around the Jade and Orr campaign and also the Orr family. To conclude, on the 15th of November, Kathleen Orr won the prestigious Douglas Bremner Special Award commendation at the St Andrews First Aid Awards ceremony. It was a privilege to be there to witness this, but I'm sure the success of the campaign and making Inverclyde safer as a result will be equally acknowledged by Kathleen and her family. Nothing will ever bring Jayden back, but knowing that placing defibs strategically across the community and helping to increase training are two ways of knowing that other families will not need to endure the loss of their child. Thank you.
Call Willie Coffey to be followed by Brian Whittle.
Thanks very much, Presiding Officer. Can also congratulate my colleague Tom Arthur for bringing this important matter to the attention of Parliament. It's a great opportunity to celebrate and recognise this wonderful work going on right across Scotland. According to the ambulance service, every year in Scotland, as has been mentioned by some members already, more than 3,500 people are treated by defibs after having a cardiac arrest. And unfortunately, only around 1 in 12 of these individuals survive. But prompt bystander CPR and early defibrillation can significantly increase the chances of their survival. So I was delighted just over a year ago to be asked to open the life-saving public access defibrillator in the village of Lugton in my constituency, along with my colleague Alan Brown MP. It was a marvellous response from the Dunlop and Lugton Community Council to the sad death of one of their own residents. Using a defib alongside CPR can greatly increase survival rates, but to be most effective, a defibrillator should be used within the first 3 to 5 minutes of collapse. If someone has a cardiac arrest and both CPR and a defib are used within 3 minutes, the chance of survival can be as high as 70 or even 80%. That's why it's great to see this life-saving device being put in place so it can be used 24/7 in such emergencies. I must admit the use of an old BT phone box is both innovative and creative, and many of the local people and businesses there were involved in its restoration and fitting out. My constituent, Martha Brindley in particular, spent much of her time renovating the telephone kiosk, removing glass, stripping back the old paint and repainting it obligatory bright red. Local businesses and residents too were equally generous with their time, donations and handiwork. It was great to see a small community pulling together like this for the benefit of its residents who may need the equipment to help save a life. Just as in Tom Arthur's constituency, there are other great examples that are worthy of a mention. In one of Kilmarnock's popular pubs, Presiding Officer, the Brass and Granite, they are on a mission there to create a community of lifesavers by placing a number of defibrillators around the town, as well as offering the CPR training to go with it. So far, they've provided 14 automated external defibs AEDs in schools, community centres and housing estates, with a target to reach about 20 or so. The pub owner, David Little, summed it up really well when he said, people should overcome their fear of hurting someone with the defibrillators, and Stuart McMillan mentioned this, and their internal training sessions there are designed to overcome this fear and build confidence in the community. They've been a great success, and they've also attracted younger people to find out more about the equipment and how to put it to good use in an emergency. You don't need to be an adult to save a life. Mr Little and his staff are to be congratulated for such an amazing effort, and their quest goes on to identify more locations in the district where access to the defibs could help save more lives. Not to be outdone, of course, Stuarton has managed to get in on the act. The St John Ambulance, together with local Boys Brigade there, have joined forces to fundraise through coffee and breakfast mornings. That AED is now proudly situated just outside the John Knox Church in Stuarton's High Street and is also available 24/7 should it be needed. Presiding Officer, there are many fine examples, and we're bound to hear some more this afternoon about this type of work going on across Scotland. I don't know if Ayrshire is leading the way on this, but there do seem to be a large number of defibrillators in place across the county. One of the more recent ones is in Prestwick, just outside the 65 Club on the main street. Although it's not in my constituency, it's one I know very well, and great credit goes to local people, John and Tracy Wallace, for being the driving force behind that particular one there. There's no doubt, Presiding Officer, that defibrillators are saving lives all across Scotland. There's growing interest from communities and businesses in taking the lead, and this is really welcome, not only for the communities themselves, but the people whose lives may yet be saved due to the generosity and determination by so many in their communities. So thanks once again to Tom Arthur for bringing this important business to the attention of the Parliament today. Thank you.
And the last of the open debate contributions is from Brian Whittle.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Could I start by apologising to you and to Tom Arthur for missing the first couple of minutes of the speech. Mr Arthur, I realised during decision time that I'd left my notes in my office, and I sprinted, Deputy Presiding Officer, all the way to the third floor to get my notes and sprinted back down again. As I approached the chamber and my vision blurred, I have never been so relieved as to be part of this debate and recognise that there are more defibrillators now in the vicinity than there were the last time we debated this. And so I'd like to add my thanks and congratulations to Tom Arthur for securing time in the chamber for this debate. And we often say that members' debates give us the opportunity of our MSPs to highlight some of the good things happening in our constituencies and around the country without the shackles of party politics, and this is certainly one of those opportunities. And I would also like to recognise Stuart McMillan has been a big supporter and campaigner for the installation of defibrillators in public places following the harrowing experiences of Jayden's family in his constituency, and has had such a strong support across the chamber in his efforts and on behalf of his constituents, and I'm happy to include myself in that support. I think this particular motion, with the fantastic efforts of Levern Valley Defibrillator Partnership, spearheaded by Braehead Rotary Club, also gives me the added opportunity to highlight the importance of the third sector in our communities. You will know, Deputy Presiding Officer, I'm a great advocate of increased support to the third sector, and this is a great example of how they are able to take positive action where it is needed without the red tape of legislation and politics. They saw a community issue and just went about solving that issue, collaborating with local businesses and East Renfrewshire Council. So from a position of having no PADs across Barhead, the partnership raised and invested £25,000 installing 23 devices, which are now available 24 hours a day. Moreover, and just as important, the LBDCP are offering free heart start defibrillator awareness courses to any in the local area who would like to learn CPR and how to operate the PAD devices. Now, this feeds into a recent petition submitted to the Petitions Committee calling for CPR to be taught to pupils in the classroom. And it's great news that this will become a reality with the support of the British Heart Foundation's Nation of Lifesavers campaign. I think the confidence that having the ability to save a life will give to school pupils cannot be underestimated. Having that skill, the achievement of passing that course, I think is so valuable. Deputy Presiding Officer, you've heard me say that there are skills learned outside the classroom that are invaluable in academic achievement. I think this is one of those skills. To have that sense of achievement, to have that confidence in that achievement, can have such a positive impact on a pupil's outlook. Now, I'm not saying that learning the ability to save a life through CPR or learning how to operate a PAD device could help you pass your maths exam. Well, actually, that is exactly what I'm saying. Overcoming that fear and grasping opportunity, the fear that my colleague mentioned earlier on, it's a learned mindset that can be applied across life, and we can and should encourage it. All we have to do is offer those kinds of opportunities. Deputy Presiding Officer, this is a great example of a community coming together for the betterment of those in the community, and they should be very proud of what they have achieved so far. And by the way, it also speaks to the desire to bring healthcare closer to the communities and that drive for more personal responsibility in community health. And they did it without the help of this place, and perhaps there's a lesson there for us all. So once again, can I thank Tom Arthur for bringing this debate to the Chamber and giving us the opportunity to congratulate a community for stepping up and making the change. Deputy Presiding Officer.
I call Joe Fitzpatrick to respond to the debate for around 7 minutes. Please, Minister.
Presiding Officer, I'm delighted to contribute and respond on behalf of the Scottish Government on this important debate. I want to add my thanks to Tom Arthur for lodging the motion and to members for their contributions and for supporting the motion so that it could be debated in the Chamber tonight. I'd also like to take the opportunity to join Tom and others in thanking Douglas Yates and the Levern Valley Defibrillation Community Partnership for their hard work to raise funds for PADs across Barrhead and for arranging life-saving CPR and PAD training courses. I think Stuart McMillan made, an important point about the practical use of PADs, but nonetheless the fact that there is a fear of using them, and that little bit of training that's added in there, I think, to give people that confidence to use a piece of technology which is actually far safer than people imagine, and I guess that's part of what we need to do, and it's why it's important that we're having debates like this to make that kind of point, to encourage people to take the action that will save a life. The Levern Valley Partnership is going above and beyond to ensure that their community can identify the signs of a cardiac arrest and act appropriately. And thanks must also go to those who've donated to the cause and to everyone who's attended the training courses. Your hard work will save lives. We know that prompt intervention by a bystander can increase the likelihood of survival after cardiac arrest by 2 or 3 times. Calling 999, starting CPR and using an available defib in the minutes immediately following a cardiac arrest is where the greatest gains in survival are achieved. In 2015, we launched the out-of-hospital cardiac arrest strategy and the commitment to improve survival and outcomes from out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. This required improvements to all 6 elements in the chain of survival: readiness, early recognition and call for help, CPR, defibrillation and pre-hospital resuscitation, post-resuscitation care and aftercare. Members will recall 2 debates in this chamber last year: Show Some Heart, the Jane Orr campaign, a campaign mentioned by Stuart McMillan, and Stuart is clearly a great advocate of that campaign in his local area, and also the Scotland, a Nation of Lifesavers. Both debates highlighted the importance of defibs and CPR, and those points remain valid today. The out-of-hospital cardiac arrest strategy recognises the importance of defibs and aims to make the most effective use of those that are available, including funding the University of Edinburgh Resuscitation Research Group to carry out modelling work to inform on where defibs are best located to save lives. And I'm very grateful to all the communities, voluntary organisations, individuals and businesses across Scotland that have funded and fundraised to purchase defibs, often making them publicly accessible. Anna Sarwar asked about registration to support communities, voluntary organisations and businesses wishing to purchase defibs for the premises. In March 2018, we published a guide to public access defibrillators. That provides practical advice to those considering purchasing and installing a PAD, including how to register them. And it's great to see the British Heart Foundation's National Defib Network database, the circuit, is now live in Scotland. The circuit integrates their own PAD register with the existing Scottish Ambulance Service defib database and allows 999 call handlers to direct a bystander or emergency service to a nearby defib during an emergency. BHF aim to increase the use of defibs by ensuring that emergency services can quickly locate the nearest PAD, even if it's out of their jurisdiction. And I'd urge everyone responsible for a public access defib who haven't registered it on the circuit to do so as soon as possible. Tom Arthur and Stuart McMillan and others, I think, talked eloquently about why it is so important that we know where those defibs are and how it can really make a difference in saving a life. But my thanks really do go to the British Heart Foundation for their exemplary work on this project. As many I think as everyone knows, Save a Life for Scotland is a partnership of public and third sector organisations such as the British Heart Foundation, St Andrews First Aid, the British Red Cross, the Royal Life Saving Society, and Lucky to Be Here, the partnership, which includes the Scottish Government, formed after the publication of our out-of-hospital cardiac arrest strategy in 2015 and works to improve cardiac arrest outcomes. It's a unique model building on a strong foundation that exists of existing work by services, communities and individuals across Scotland. As Anas Sarwar mentioned, in October the partnership announced that they'd reached one of the strategy's aims to equip 500,000 people across Scotland with CPR skills, increasing the number of bystanders able to step in during an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest emergency. That's a fantastic achievement and highlights how we can all work together to improve a person's chance of survival. I want to congratulate all of those who have worked incredibly hard to reach this aim. You will also no doubt be aware that the strategy finishes in 2020. The Scottish Government are working with key stakeholders to look at what the next step should be, and I'll be happy to discuss with Mr Sarwar how some of his proposals might feed into that. But we'll also recognise how important it is that children and young people are able to positively engage with health and wellbeing issues at school. So being trained in CPR, as Mr Whittle said, can help young people develop the skills that they may need in an emergency situation. But I think Mr Whittle is absolutely right that this goes further than that and can help in wider attainment. We welcome the British Heart Foundation's A Nation of Lifesavers campaign, which secured the commitment of all 32 local authorities in Scotland to teach CPR in their secondary schools. In many primary and secondary schools across Scotland, we know that CPR awareness skills development is already embedded. To assist educational professionals, Save a Life for Scotland has worked with Education Scotland to develop resources for schools which are available on Education Scotland's GLOW website, and this is aimed at delivering our aim of making CPR learning easy, accessible and free. Before I conclude, Presiding Officer, I think it's just good to reflect, going back to 2015 when the strategy was launched. Around 1 in 20 people survived to leave hospital after an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. Since the introduction of the OCA strategy, this has increased to 1 in 12, as Willie Coffey said. That's a fantastic achievement, but clearly we can continue to go further, and that's what I think we all aim to do, and making defibrillators more accessible across Scotland, I think, is a major part of doing that. Presiding Officer, I want to close by thanking all the members in the Chamber, and particularly those who've got a particular interest in this area, and everyone across Scotland for their hard work in improving the outcomes for out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. Thank you.
That concludes the debate, and this meeting is closed.